Recently, Nate from Micro Wilderness sent me some bark scorpions. Now, I have always been a fan of all types of bark scorpions, especially since most of them can be kept communally. I received 7 Texas bark scorpions, also known as striped bark scorpions, or Centruroides vittatus. These are an extremely common scorpion found throughout the middle of the United States, even down into northern Mexico. It is perhaps the most frequently encountered scorpion in the US, and their venom is relatively mild. That is, in comparison to the other species of scorpion he sent me. This is the Arizona bark scorpion, or Centruroides sculpturatus. These scorpions look somewhat similar in shape and even in color, but they are typically lighter or more yellow looking, and they do not have the distinctive stripes down the back that the Texas bark scorpion is commonly known for. The Arizona bark also has a much smaller range where they can be found. Centruroides sculpturatus is mainly found in the southwestern United States and northwestern Mexico, with a primary range in Arizona and small parts of Southern California, Nevada, Utah, and New Mexico, mostly where they all border Arizona or the Sonoran Desert. Centruroides vittatus is found primarily in the southern and southwestern United States, including states like Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado, Arkansas, Louisiana, and even Missouri. The Texas bark scorpion prefers a wide range of habitats, including woodlands, grasslands, deserts, and urban areas. They are often found under rocks, logs, and debris, as well as on the bark of trees and the side of buildings and walls. While the Arizona bark scorpion is primarily a desert-dwelling species, often inhabiting areas like rocky outcrops, caves, crevices, and the bark of trees, which is obviously how they got their name. The venom of Centruroides vittatus is considered to be moderate. While a sting can be painful and cause localized symptoms, it only lasts for a few hours to a day and is rarely life-threatening, except in cases of severe allergic reactions. On the other hand, the Centruroides sculpturatus is known to have one of the most potent venoms of all scorpions in North America. The Arizona bark scorpion sting can be extremely painful, with symptoms lasting about 72 hours or longer, and may even lead to severe issues, especially in vulnerable populations, such as the elderly, children, or individuals with compromised immune systems. Deaths from their stings are very rare, but can occur in severe cases, with at least 2 recorded fatalities being attributed to this species in the state of Arizona since 1968. I am essentially setting up their enclosures the same, but with a few small differences. I definitely want to provide both species with the husbandry they typically require, but also give them the opportunity to explore and possibly exhibit some different behaviors other than what is typically observed. For both enclosures, I'm using the Exoterra 12x12x18 arboreal enclosure. I am filling them right up to just below the door with the bioactive Terra Arania that is specifically made for arachnids like tarantulas and scorpions. It is designed to help regulate humidity, provide a bioactive environment, and hold any burrows the arachnids might create. Then I add the BioShot, which is a unique microbial supplement and organic fertilizer for bioactive vivariums. These nutrients are safe for all pet reptiles, invertebrates, and amphibians, and the microbes can thrive in bone-dry or wet environments. Next, I add some leaf litter. This is both for a naturalistic look, but it is also a food source for the isopods and springtails as it breaks down. I mix in some damp sphagnum moss, and this will help hold in moisture and slowly release it through the substrate to help maintain a more constant humidity without having to keep the substrate itself constantly damp. Finally, I mix it all together very well. For the Texas bark scorpion enclosure, I make sure to provide plenty of substrate so they can burrow, but I am also providing some vertical cork bark and branches that they can crawl on and explore and hunt. And I am very interested to see if they spend a lot of time hanging out arboreally or if they will prefer to hide at ground level and only climb the cork while looking for food. I plan on keeping this enclosure a little more humid, so I am only using cork bark and cork branches as they are very resistant to mold and mildew, and they always hold up very well in a more humid setup. Finally, I'm going to add some plants that I picked up from the BioDude's Desert Plant Multi-Pack. The enclosure for the Arizona bark scorpion will be a more arid setup. I want the bottom layer of substrate and the moss to have some moisture, but the top layer I will be keeping mostly dry. I know from past experience that this species seems to spend most of their time off the ground and hanging on the bark of trees. So I'm putting in a large piece of cork bark up against the back corner, and I'm also going to include a large piece of sandblasted grapevine for them to climb around on. I love the way that the grapevine looks, but it's not a wood I would suggest using in more damp enclosures, as it seems to mold up pretty quickly, and while it may not be harmful to the scorpions, it does not look appealing at all. I also gave them plenty of substrate, and I'm very interested to see if they will do any burrowing. Then I planted a few succulents and a small aloe plant in the enclosure, which really seemed to pull it all together. In both enclosures, I have added some live terrarium moss, which is one of my favorite products from the BioDude, that I seem to use in every enclosure, whether it is tropical or arid. You can keep it damp in tropical setups, and it will stay a bright green and help keep the humidity up. But I also like using it in arid enclosures, because when it starts to dry out, it really gives the enclosure a natural appearance that I love. I just put it in the corners and crevices where I think moss would naturally grow in nature. One of the best details of these enclosures is the Enclosure Stone Desert. In the Texas bark scorpion enclosure, I am going to use the Stone Desert Outback Red, which I know it's more of an Australia vibe, but I lived in Oklahoma for a short while I was young, and one of the only things I remember about it is all the red clay and dirt. So it feels right, and I think it looks great. For the Arizona bark scorpion enclosure, I am using the aptly named Centruroides Stone Desert, which has more of that yellow or tan rocky sand you typically see in northern Arizona and the Sonoran Desert. So it works perfectly. A quick side note, Enclosure also has a third type that I really like, and it's called Bahariya Black Stone Desert, which I have used in some of my past enclosure build videos, as well as in the shorts I've made recently where I am putting together the Tarantula Cribs coffin enclosure. Now, if you're lucky, you might be able to pick up a bag of Stone Desert at your local pet store or Reptile Expo. But in my area, I've never really had much luck finding it available for sale. But I do know that right now, the BioDude has a Centruroides and the Outback Red available for sale on their website. And if you use my affiliate code Tarantula12 at checkout, it will save you 12% on your entire order. So that includes the Stone Desert, plants, substrate, cork, lighting, enclosures, and essentially everything that I've used in this video to make these enclosures. Everything but the scorpions themselves, that is. And when you use my affiliate code, in addition to saving you 12%, a small commission will come back to help support this channel. Links and details will all be down below in the description and the pinned comment. Finally, I top things off by sprinkling some broken up leaf litter across the floor of the enclosure, and then it's time to move in the scorpions. Immediately after moving them in, I noticed the Arizona bark scorpions were crawling all around everywhere and seemed very interested in climbing vertically as they explored their enclosure. The Texas bark scorpions did some climbing around the base, but almost all of them have taken refuge and hid under the leaves, plants, or burrowed under the cork branches and bark. While the Arizona bark scorpions spend a lot of time hanging out vertically on the bark, the Texas bark scorpions seem to spend most of their time hiding on or under the ground during the day, but in the evening, they seem to be doing a lot of climbing around once it starts getting dark. Overall, they seem to be really settling in and making the new enclosures home. The only issue I've found is that almost as soon as I put them on the shelf, the scorpions began climbing up the background and squeezing in between the back of the background and the back of the glass. While this is not really dangerous, I do worry that they might spend all their time back there and not get the food and water they need to survive. So what I'm going to do is shove some sphagnum moss between the top of the background and the lid of the enclosure in an attempt to dissuade the scorpions from hiding back there. And yeah, that really happened. Everything was done, but I had to go back for a few finishing details, and I managed to get myself stung twice in the finger by an Arizona bark scorpion. There will be a lot of information about that experience in my next video, so make sure that you're subscribed and have all notifications turned on so you don't miss it. As always, I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. Thanks for buying Tarantula Collective merchandise and using my affiliate codes, and I will see you next Tuesday. Ow, ow, God, my finger still hurts.